Psychology IIUM, and today I'm delivering a lesson on industrial and organizational psychology. Right. The slide's not moving. Hold on, yeah. Okay. So these are the questions that we aim to answer today. Like, what is industrial and organizational psychology? What are the major areas in industrial organizational psychology? What are the problems with secular industrial organizational psychology? And how to decolonize secular industrial and organizational psychology? So for the first question, what is IO psychology? The Industrial Organizational Psychology, or IO psychology, is a specialized field within psychology that focuses on the scientific study of human behavior in the workplace. It aims to understand and optimize the performance of individuals and organizations by applying psychological principles and research methods. This discipline encompasses various aspects of life, of working life, including employee selection, training, performance appraisal, employee motivation, job satisfaction, and organizational culture. There are at least 5 major areas in IO psychology, namely personnel psychology, organizational psychology, work psychology, human factors and ergonomics, and an emerging field of occupational health psychology. So the first one, personnel psychology, deal with the recruitment, selection, training, and development of employees. This area emphasizes the importance of aligning individual capability with job requirements in order to enhance organizational effectiveness. Techniques such as job analysis, psychometric testing, and structured interview are commonly employed in order to ensure organization that the right candidates are selected for a specific role. So the aim of personnel psychology is to make sure that we hire people who have the fitness with the job and with the organizations. Secondly, is the area of organizational psychology. This area focuses on understanding the dynamics within organization and how this dynamic can affect employee behavior and performance. This area includes studying of organizational culture, leadership style, team dynamics, and change management. Organizational psychologists often work on improving workplace environments and fostering a culture that promotes employment well-being and productivity. So the third area of IO psychology is known as work psychology. Okay, in work psychology, this area examines how work environments influence employee behavior and attitude. The area explores factors such as job design, work-life balance, and the impact of stress on performance. Research in this area aims to develop strategies that enhance employee satisfaction and reduce burnout, ultimately leading to improved organizational outcomes. Fourthly is the area of human factors and ergonomics. So this area involves designing workspaces and systems that optimize human performance and safety. This area studies how physical and cognitive aspects of the work environment can be improved to enhance productivity and reduce the risk of accidents. And last but not least is the area of occupational health psychology. This is an emerging area within IO psychology that focuses on the psychological and physical well-being of employees. This field examines how workplace conditions affect mental health and aims to develop interventions that promote a healthy work-life balance and psychological resilience among the employees. In a nutshell, IO psychology is a multifaceted discipline that integrates various psychological principles to address issues related to human behavior in the workplace. The major areas, as explained earlier, include personnel psychology, organizational psychology, work psychology, human factors and ergonomy, and occupational health psychology, all aim at enhancing individual and organizational performance. So what are the problems with the secular IO psychology? So among the problems include reductionist perspective, valorization of post-positivist epistemology, profitability over ethical and moral commitment, cultural and contextual inadequacy, and spiritual and existential struggles. Right. The first challenge or the first problem in secular IO psychology is the approach of reductionist perspective. So this perspective prioritizes quantitative measures and empirical data over qualitative insights, leading to a narrow understanding of complex human behaviors and organizational phenomena. So many has argued that this focus on measurable outcome can overlook the subjective experiences of employee, such as their emotional and spiritual needs, which are essential for fostering a healthy work environment. By neglecting this dimension, secular IO psychology may have failed to address the root causes of work dissatisfaction and disengagement. The second problem with secular IO psychology is the valorization of positivist epistemology, which is the overemphasis on individualistic and mechanistic view of human behavior. This perspective often prioritizes management and organizational efficiency at the expense of employee well-being and ethical considerations. As a result, workplace interventions may prioritize productivity over the holistic development of employees. This potentially leads to burnout and decreased job satisfaction. This approach of positivist epistemology also can create a disconnect between organizational goals and personal values of employees, hence undermining their motivation and commitment to the organization. The third problem with the secular IO psychology is profitability over ethical and practical commitment. The focus on empirical data and objective measure can lead to neglect of the ethical implications of workplace practices and policies. This oversight can result in organizational cultures that prioritize profit and efficiency over employee welfare and corporate social responsibility. The lack of moral compass in decision-making processes can also contribute to toxic workplace environment and unethical practices, which ultimately harm both employee and the organizations. The fourth challenge in the secular IO psychology is the cultural and contextual inadequacy. Secular IO psychology may apply standardized models and practices across diverse organizational settings without accounting for the unique cultural and social context in which these organizations operate. This one-size-fits-all approach can lead to ineffective interventions that do not resonate with the values and beliefs of the employees, particularly in multicultural environments. This is particularly apparent because many of the practices and research evidences are originated from Western countries and adapted into non-Western countries. Last but not least, the problem with the secular IO psychology is the spiritual and existential struggles. Many employees seek meaning and purpose in their work, which IO psychology may inadequately address. This gap can lead to a lack of fulfillment and engagement among employees, as their deeper needs for connection and purpose remain unrecognized in the organizations. The absence of a spiritual dimension in workplace practices can hinder the development of a supportive organizational culture that nurtures employee well-being and fosters a sense of belonging. With all these challenges, there is a need to decolonize IO psychology, and one way to do it is through what we call the Tawhidic epistemology. So Tawhidic epistemology is a foundation in Islamic philosophy that emphasizes the unity of knowledge as derived from the oneness of God, known as Tawhid. The epistemological framework decides that all forms of knowledge, whether it is revealed or rational, must ultimately relate back to the divine source, thereby establishing holistic understanding of existence and knowledge. The essence of Tawhidic epistemology is rooted in the belief that all true knowledge is interconnected and originates from the same divine reality, which is articulated in the Holy Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So the Tawhidic epistemology refers to the integration of revealed knowledge and human reasoning as a critical aspect of this framework. It necessitates a new paradigm that harmonizes various disciplines under the umbrella of Tawhid. And this integration is not merely an academic exercise, but also a spiritual and ethical responsibility that extends to all aspects of life, including education, economics, and social justice. In the context of IO psychology, the reasons why we need to integrate this epistemology in the teaching and practice of IO psychology may range from holistic understanding of human behavior, ethical framework for decision making, enhanced employee well-being, alignment of organizational value and employees' value, improve leadership and organizational culture, and last but not least, in order to address cultural sensitivity and diversity. Firstly, in terms of holistic understanding of human behavior, Tawhidic epistemology emphasizes the multifaceted nature of human being, encompassing of the nafs, the lower self, the qalb, which is the heart, the akal, which is the intellect, and the ruh, which is the spirit. By integrating this understanding into IO psychology, practitioners can develop a more comprehensive view of employee behavior that considers emotional, spiritual, and ethical dimensions. This holistic approach can lead to more effective intervention that address not only the cognitive aspect of work, but also the emotional and spiritual needs of the employees, fostering a more engaged and satisfied workforce. Secondly, the need to integrate Tawhidi epistemology in the practice of IO psychology is in order to have an ethical framework for decision making. By emphasizing the oneness of God and the interconnected of all knowledge, this framework encourages leaders and employees to act with integrity and social responsibility. Integrating this principle into IO psychology can help organizations cultivate ethical cultures that prioritize fairness, transparency, and accountability, ultimately leading to improved employee morale and trust. Thirdly, the need to integrate Tawhidi epistemology in the practice of IO psychology is to enhance employee well-being. Practices such as Tazkiyatun Nafs, or the purification of soul, can be incorporated into workplace wellness program promoting mental health and resilience among employees. By addressing the spiritual and psychological dimension of well-being, organizations can create supportive environment that enhance overall employee satisfaction and productivity. This focus on well-being aligns with contemporary trends in IO psychology that emphasizes the importance of mental health in the workplace. This is especially true with the emerging subdiscipline of occupational health psychology. Another reason why it is important to integrate Tawhidi epistemology into the practice of IO psychology is for the alignment of organizational values and employees' value. By integrating Tawhidi epistemology, organizations can align their value with those of their employees, particularly in Muslim majority contexts. This alignment can enhance organizational commitment and loyalty as employee feels that their personal belief and values are respected and reflected in their workplace. And by fostering an environment that acknowledges and incorporates Islamic values, organizations can improve employee engagement and reduce turnover rate. This is simply because employee can see that their values is aligned with the values of the organization. And last but not least, the reason why there is a need to integrate between Tawhidi epistemology and the practice of IO psychology is to improve leadership and organizational culture. The principle derived from the Tawhidic epistemology can inform leadership styles that prioritize compassion, empathy, and ethical behavior. Leaders who embody these values can inspire their teams and create a positive organizational culture that promotes collaboration and mutual respect. This approach contrasts with more traditional hierarchical leadership model, fostering a sense of community and shared purpose among employees. Another reason why it is important to integrate Tauhidi epistemology in the practice of IO psychology is in order for us to address cultural sensitivity and diversity. Incorporating Tauhidi epistemology with IO psychology can enhance cultural sensitivity and inclusivity within organizations. Understanding the spiritual and ethical dimensions of diverse employee backgrounds allow organizations to create more inclusive policies and practices that respect and celebrate cultural differences. This sensitivity can lead to improved teamwork and collaborations among employees from various backgrounds, ultimately enhancing organizational performance. Now, the question here is, with the fact that there are many reasons why there is a need to integrate Tauhidic epistemology into the practice in IO psychology, the next question is how to integrate the Tauhidic epistemology into each area of IO psychology. As mentioned earlier, IO psychology, the major areas in IO psychology include personnel psychology, work psychology, organizational psychology, human factors and ergonomic, as well as occupational health psychology. So, firstly, in personnel psychology, Tauhidic epistemology can inform recruitment, selection, and training processes by emphasizing the importance of aligning individual values with organizational values. This approach encourages the selection of candidates who not only possess the necessary skill but also embody Islamic ethical principles such as honesty, integrity, and responsibility. So organization can also implement training programs that incorporate Islamic teachings on ethical behavior and teamwork, fostering a sense of community and loyalty among employees. There are two things that can be done here in personnel psychology. Firstly, when it comes to selection of candidates, where traits of Islamic ethical principles such as honesty, integrity, and social responsibility can be measured during the selection process in order to ensure that the organization hire employees with these ethical principles. And secondly, when you already hire people into the organization, what the organization can do is the organization can design and implement training program that incorporate Islamic teaching and ethical behavior, not only on teamwork, but also in many spheres of organizational behavior. Right. Secondly, Tauhidic epistemology can be applied in the sub-area of IO psychology called organizational psychology. Tauhidic epistemology can significantly influence organizational psychology by promoting a culture of ethical leadership and organizational citizenship behavior, or known as OCB. So OCB refers to helping behavior or altruistic behavior in the organizations. Leaders who embody Tauhidic principles are likely to inspire their teams to act with integrity and commitment to the organization goals. Research indicates that Islamic moral values positively affect OCB and loyalty in the workplace, suggesting that organizations can benefit from fostering an environment that encourages ethical conduct and community-oriented behavior. Furthermore, implementing practices that reflect Islamic values can enhance employee engagement and satisfaction, ultimately leading to improved organizational performance. Okay, so there is a need to integrate between Islamic moral values into the practice of IO psychology in the area of organizational psychology. Right. In the context of work psychology, what Tauhidic epistemology can do in the integration of epistemology in the practice of IO psychology is by recognizing the spiritual and ethical dimensions of work, where organization can create environment that promotes well-being and fulfillment. For example, incorporating practice such as prayer, meditation, and reflection into the workplace can help employees manage stress and enhance their overall mental health. Additionally, understanding the significance of work-life balance from an Islamic perspective can lead to policies that support employees in achieving harmony between professional and personal life. So in the case of work psychology, there are so many things that can be done when Tauhidi epistemology is integrated into the practice of IO psychology in work psychology. Right. In another area of IO psychology called human factors and ergonomy, Tauhidi epistemology emphasizes the importance of designing workspaces that respect human dignity and promote well-being. So this approach can involve creating environments that are not only physically comfortable, but also spiritually uplifting. For instance, organization can incorporate elements that reflect Islamic aesthetics and values that can enhance the workplace atmosphere and contribute to employee satisfaction and productivity. Moreover, organizations can prioritize transparency and trust in their operations, aligning their practices with Islamic principle of honesty and accountability. So transparency is an important element in the integration of Tauhidi epistemology in the practice of IO psychology. In the area of occupational health psychology, integrating Tauhidic epistemologies can be done by integrating Islamic values into health initiatives, where organizations can create supportive environment that address both psychological and the spiritual needs of the employees. For example, programs that encourage community support, ethical behavior, and spiritual growth can foster resilience and coping strategies among employees facing challenges. Additionally, recognizing the role of spiritual values in enhancing helping behavior can lead to more compassionate and supportive workplace culture. This points to the need for the organization not only to look into physical factors that can affect employees' well-being, but also the role of spiritual values as well as spiritual growth and spiritual factors in affecting occupational health of the employees at the workplace. In conclusion, integrating Tauhidi epistemology into IO psychology offers a comprehensive framework that aligns psychological practices with Islamic values. By emphasizing ethical conduct, community engagement, and spiritual well-being, organizations can create environments that promote employee satisfaction, organizational effectiveness, and social responsibility. This holistic approach not only enhances individual and organizational performance, but also contribute to a more ethical and compassionate workplace culture. So, for the initial work on integrating Tauhidi epistemology in the practice of IO psychology, many Islamic concepts can be applied into the context and practice of IO psychology. Although it may look conceptual at the initial work, there are more works needed to operationalize all the Islamic principles and concepts into the practice of IO psychology. And we must also recognize that every organization is different, and one operations may work in one organization but may not work in a different organization. In other words, there are many ways how Islamic principles and concepts can be operationalized in different organizations, right? So it is a challenge for Muslim or Islamic IO psychology to take up all the Islamic concepts and principles and operationalize it in accordance with the needs and the unique characteristic of in organizations. Right, that's all from me today. Thank you. Any question?
Thank you very much, Doctor. So we're open for Q&A now. Any question? There is question in the chat box, Doctor.
All right, let me have a look. The chat.
From Dr. Nawawi.
What do the labor laws say about psychological aspect of the work and industry? All right. For this one, okay, I think generally, okay, you read. In order to answer the question, we really have to look into context, right? Whether or not, I think every every country or even every region, they have a different set of labor law, right? So we can't generalize one country from the other. Okay, but in Malaysia, what I can say about Malaysia is we still have a long way to go when it comes into psychological aspect of the workers and the industry, right? It's actually still an infancy, right? There are many works done in order to put forward or spearhead psychological aspects of the works in Malaysia. We do have Occupational Safety and Health OSHA 1994, and the Act mandates to ensure a safe and healthy work environments for employee, encompassing both physical and psychological aspects. Right. Although the objective is to promote an occupational environment adapted to workers' physiological and psychological health, its provision primarily focus on physical health with limited explicit references to mental health. Right, and then we do have in Malaysia Mental Health Act 2001 and Mental Health Regulation 2010. This law focuses on the treatment and care of individuals with mental disorders but do not specifically address workplace mental health issues. And then in Malaysia, we have also Employment Act 1955. It provides certain protection for employee, but it still lacks explicit provisions related to mental health. So incorporating mental health consideration into this act could formalize the responsibility and protections, emphasizing that mental health is as vital as physical health. Like I said from the very beginning, Malaysia we still at infancy when it comes to mental health in general community, let alone mental health in the workplace. Okay, but in 2024, the Department of Occupational Safety and Health has came up with guidelines on psychosocial risk assessment and management at the workplace. So these recognize the increasing prevalence of psychosocial issues among the Malaysian workforce. And this guideline is to assist employers in identifying and managing workplace factors that could adversely affect employee mental health. So, but it stands as a guideline. Okay, it's not an act. All right. So, I would say because I'm not familiar with the law in other contexts, but in Malaysia especially, I would say that we are still in infancy. There's so much work to be done in order to create awareness of mental health workplace or workplace mental health and how this can be safeguarded in the organizations. All right, and then one new message. Please could you show us the list of references? I will provide the list of references to Sister Jaria and upload it in the Google Drive later on, because the one in the slides are just selected references, but I can give all the references for all the slides. Okay, I think that's all. There are no other questions. Oh, hold it. There's one. Many organizations treat their workers in a bad way, sometimes even they don't have the right to complain. So what is your advice for this? All right. This is not common. This is not uncommon. Sorry. This is not uncommon. All right. Like I said, the problem is the lack of awareness on workplace mental health. And people do not treat mental health as serious as they treat physical health, simply because it's not something that you can directly see. Right? Like people will have more empathy towards employees who have been diagnosed with terminal diseases compared to any employees who reported about or who not complain, but they raise the concerns about workplace mental health. There are, I would say, more, instead of advice, the suggestion is there is a need for the organization, but it's hard to say because organizations, they themselves, they do not realize the importance of workplace mental health, all right, despite the rising statistics shown in the workplace. And we also have to acknowledge the fact that employees are not keen to share or disclose the information that they are suffering from mental illnesses because of the stigma and discriminations not only in the organization but also in the society in general. Correct. It would need the work of all parties. Okay, starting with the government. Okay, there is a need for the government to look into the issues of workplace mental health and to acknowledge that workplace mental health is as important as physical health at the workplace. Right. So it needs to start. It needs to be mandated from organizations, from the government to the organizations. Right. But some organizations I have already oh no some I'm not saying all organizations don't care about workplace mental health, but there are some organizations who have taken the issues very seriously, and they even have some sort of interventions for their employees, okay, because they see rising cases in their organizations, right? Not saying that if they don't have the right to complain. Okay, and for employees who face stigma or discrimination at the workplace because of their mental health, what they can do is they can't complain in the organization. They have other platforms to complain, such as labor office, right, and go to NGOs and who advocates for workplace mental health. But like I said, it's still a lot needs to be done. All right. And then like in a developed country, like in the UK, for example, because of the awareness is there, and they prioritize workplace mental health, right? And it's part of the organization KPI. For example, they have like workplace mental health index. Okay, so organization is not only measured by their organization or financial performance, but they are also measured in terms of their employees' well-being, right? So that is first mandated by the government because they have an act for that, right? And then it is mandated to all organizations. So because they have that, so organization is obligated to ensure that their organizations perform in terms of ensuring the well-being of their employees, right? So like I said, it has to get, like, if from the employee's point of view, like if you don't get the your rights as employees, and the that the organization is not taking responsibility over the mental health of the workers, you may find other platform such as labor office and NGO. But in order for this to work at a more holistic level, all right, it has to start from the government. Someone needs to lobby the government, or someone's need to provide data to the government how important is workplace mental health, and then there should be an act to govern it, right? And not only act, but the enforcement of act is also important, and how organizations is measured in terms of employee well-being is also important. I would say it will take a long journey in order to reach to that level, like in the UK, right? Like in the UK, they are like employees who suffer from mental health and illness or any kind of stress, not just mental health, not necessarily clinically diagnosed mental health, right? But employee has the right to take like 7 days self-certified leave, right? If they are reported to experience stress or burnout. Okay, they even do it at that level. Like when you are stressed and burnt out, you can take a 7 days leave, and if you need like clinical help, then you'll be referred to professionals to help you dealing with the stress and burnout. But in the UK, what I can say is that employer take it very seriously. Like if any of the employees reported any experience of stress and burnout, right? So despite that they have this self-certified 7 days, but within that 7 days, employers will start doing their job, like making sure, trying to figure out what causes the stress and burnout, and making sure there are no other employees affected by the workplace stress. Okay, so it would take a long journey for us to be like a developed country. Any other questions? Let me have a look. There are various forms of harassment too. Yes, indeed. All right. Unfortunately or sadly to say, again, like I said, it needs a law. We need an act, all right, that can govern, that can define various forms of harassment, all right. Even in a developed country where they have an act for it, okay, but when it comes to harassment, it's something that is very hard to prove, and it requires not only an act but also regulations in the organization, like I said, but the organization also needs to be educated on workplace harassment. Okay, some take it very lightly, especially in the countries where we don't have an act to govern the practices in the organization. Okay, I think that's all. No more questions.